Hello, everyone. I am very delighted to be welcoming you to the very first session of our four-part webinar series on access to justice in the digital world, hosted by Mtoto News. My name is Rose Wadi, and I will be co-hosting with Atulo.
Thank you, Rose. My name is Joseph Atulo. I work at Mtoto News in the Child Participation Department. Welcome, everyone. So this webinar comes in the backdrop of two very important days that happened in the month of February. One of these is the Safer Internet Day, which is marked annually on the 6th of February. And it is a very important day, especially regarding to the safety of children as they navigate the digital world. As we navigate the ever-evolving digital space, one critical question arises: are children equipped and empowered to access justice when their rights are violated in the online space? So we at Mtoto News figured it is good if we come together, if we brought practitioners, and if we brought all our efforts together just to address some of these risks that the children are facing in the digital space, and seeing how can each and every one of us come together and address this issue, and how can children, when they undergo these issues that they are facing in the online space, who is there to help them?
Yes, seeing as today's episode is on the practitioner's perspective, today we have four professionals with us who are first-hand contact persons with children who find themselves in situations, in digital situations. So we have Ms. Jacqueline Ikua, who works for the DCS, that's the Directorate of Children's Services, under the Child Online Protection Department. We also have Mr. JP Murunga, who is a program officer at Equity Now. We also have Mr. Tom Nyabuti, who is a senior superintendent of police at the DCI. We also have Ms. Leah Mwati, who is a senior prosecution counsel.
Without further ado, I'd love to welcome our speakers in the order that they have been mentioned by Rose. We can start with Ms. Jacqueline Ikua from the DCS. Just to tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Jacqueline Ikua. I'm a children officer by profession. I sit at the Child Online Protection Department, specifically the Directorate of Children's Services.
Thank you, Ms. Jacqueline. We can have Mr. JP Murunga.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. My name is Jean-Paul Murunga. I work with Equality Now as a program officer. I'm an advocate of the High Court and also a 14 years practitioner in child protection. But in this particular webinar, I'm also stepping in by virtue of our membership in the National Council on Administration of Justice under the Standing Committee on Justice for Children, where I'm also representing the chair, Lady Justice Teresa Mateka. I'm looking forward to the deliberations. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Joe. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Leah Mwati. I prosecute in the Children's Court at Milimani Law Courts, and I'm based at the Children's Division in the ODPP.
Thank you so much, Leah, and welcome. Last but not least, we have Mr. Tom Nyabuti. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Mr. Tulo. Of course, as you have said, my name is Tom Nyabuti. I'm a police officer, a senior superintendent of police. I'm a trainer at the National Criminal Investigations Academy based in South Sea. I train police officers on investigations and police procedures, which of course includes training them on investigations involving children. Yeah. And I'm head of faculty of investigations and police procedures at the said academy.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Nyabuti. And hearing your introductions, it is very clear that every one of you works with children and every one of you is in contact with children in one way or another. So I just want to, as we open, maybe in the first question, I can just ask, what is the state of online abuse in the country especially, and what type of abuse do you receive in your agency? We can start with Mr. Nyabuti.
Abuse on children comes in many forms online, including sexual abuse and even sexual abuse, which comes in form of where predators who are surfing in the internet find children who are vulnerable and they proceed to entice them, appearing like friends, and in the end of the day, thereafter ask them to commit or to give things like their images or videos, sometimes when they're nude or they're naked, and then even proceed to intimidate them and harass them and ask them by threatening that if they don't give them those images, they will end up circulating those images or pictures online, and in so doing embarrass them. And if they don't do that, if they circulate the pictures or the videos online, it leads to these children getting depressed. I mean, sometimes even these children some end up even committing suicide as a result of the embarrassment that they will have gotten from their pictures or videos being circulated online.
Thank you. From a recent report that was done by UNICEF, Interpol, and the ECPAT, which is an organization that works a lot in protection of children from sexual abuse, especially online or internet-based abuse, they're indicating that children who are using internet actively, that is 16% between the ages of 12 to 17, and they are saying that from that study, which was really extensive in Kenya, done extensively, is that 7% of the 67% of the children reported that they have been coerced or asked to conduct activities that have sexual connotation in nature. And of course, this is either by adults or fellow children. A number of them also have been offered gifts beyond the coercion or harassment, is also offered gifts to engage in those acts, or either by exchanging their images or by streaming videos of themselves in a sexual nature. The report also indicates that 3% of the 67% who are using internet have also been threatened or blackmailed, where, for example, their photos or their images that they've not expressly consented to be circulated. So they've received either through emails or through the social media networks, it would be TikTok, Facebook, a message threatening or blackmailing them that the images will go out. So these are just some of the abuses that have been reported in terms of this particular report that I'm talking about.
Thank you so much, Mr. JP.
We'll have Ms. Jackie Ikua, who is a children's officer working the child online protection at the DCS.
On a daily interaction, there are incidences of online grooming that are happening to our children. We find there's a lot of incidences where children are left unattended or unguided online, and perpetrators are able to assess vulnerabilities. They're able to get into contact with these children, and because of just lack of that special guidance, they are unable to see that this grooming would lead into sexual exploitation. So some cases will present themselves as online grooming. There are cases also that present themselves with regards to child sexual abuse material, where children are coerced to send probably certain details about themselves, ranging from their personal information down to explicit content. And some of these perpetrators use whatever information that these children have shared to actually extort or take advantage of these children. And if you do not create an environment as caregivers or as parents, and also as social service providers, the children are able to come to you as a parent, come to you as a service provider when they are going through this, will avoid them getting more deeper into the problem. And actually, I believe Mr. Tom has reiterated some of these incidences might end up even being incidences of self-harm or even suicide. Not only the child sexual exploitation cases, but bullying. Children, parents, or their caregivers have shared information, or probably their photos online, or probably they are doing content online, and they experience a lot of bullying around the fact that their identities are online. So you find that whole sharing of a child's photo, that whole sharing of a child's information, using a child when it comes to development of content, and not being aware that the more you share a child, the more you need to actually prepare that sometimes you'll actually encounter trolls, you'll encounter a lot of bullying, and it takes an impact on the children.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jackie. Going to the next question, I just wanted to get from you, our dear panelists, what are some of the things, or what are the things that your institutions, organizations, and agencies are doing to ensure that children are being protected and that children are having access to justice? We can start with Ms. Jackie again. Maybe you can just tell us, as one of the first people that is in contact with the child when they get abused, what is your institution doing? What is your agency, the Directorate of Children's Services, which we all know is a new directorate? What are you doing as an organization, as an institution, to ensure that children are having access to justice from the point of abuse to the point of them getting justice?
The Children Act, we have a section 38 where we draw a mandate under the functions of the secretary, and we perform, as children officers on the ground, we perform delegated functions of the secretary, ranging from investigating and reporting cases of children facing any form of abuse or hardship, down to preparing social inquiry, investigating, assessing the welfare of children. We also provide administrative and social support to courts with regards to actually giving an opinion with regards to the best safeguards for a child who's going through the justice system. We also do cases of mediation and family reconciliation, and provide services for all children, whether in conflict with the law or children in need of care and protection. So when a child is going through abuse, we have a whole section 144 of the Children Act that stipulates the different categorization of a child in need of care and protection. So one of the things that we do is be able to initiate a proceeding with regards to a protection and care file that basically gives the best interventions that can be provided unto this child. So case in point, you receive a case of abuse. One of the things you probe is as this case, because it is a criminal case, as it was a case gotten to the police, how do you link the child to a police station? Some of the online cases end up being offline cases. So this is a case probably that will require medical intervention. So how would you link that case to a service provider who will offer medical intervention? Then when you get to the justice system at the court level, is now open a file, a protection and care file. With this protection and care file, you're able to assess the child, assess the family, assess the best interventions that you can provide with regards to ensuring this child gets the services and the interventions they need. One of the things we advocate for is practices that are child-centered, practices that are trauma-informed, knowing that whatever this child has gone through, whether we deem it online or offline, has an impact on the well-being of the child. This form actually the adverse childhood experiences that once, if they're not well handled, will lead to adults who are not functioning properly. So it's ensuring that this child who's going through the justice system gets the support that they need to actually be able to cope and actually be able to return them to a sense of functioning. This involves not only interacting with the child, but also interacting with the household, interacting with the family. Which family dynamics can we actually deal with? Which family dynamics can we be able to address? At the directorate, the whole essence is to ensure that the services that they need, linking them with the appropriate salary, to ensure that even though the case may be completed or ongoing, but are just finding out what's the progress of the child and what interventions can be made at whichever level. It's important to also note that we do not only deal with the children in need of care and protection, we also deal with children in conflict with the law. These are children who, in one way or another, are treated as have offended. So these are children who can be perpetrators of that online abuse. So it's providing interventions with regards to assessing what are some of the push and pull factors within the family, within the community level that led to this child to offend. And how are we able to address? Because we believe children should not live with a permanent record of that they did wrong. It's something they did, and with proper guidance, with proper advice, with proper care, they can be able to get out of a straight path and lead successful lives in future.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jacqueline. I'll ask it to Mr. JP Murunga.
Thank you. Part of the committee, member of the stands been doing. This committee is an oversight body created within the National Council on Administration of Justice, which is basically a national institution within the judiciary that was put in place to ensure that Kenyans access justice efficiently, and there's a coordinated approach, and also there's accountability in terms of the services offered. So the committee has members are drawn from different departments of the government, line ministries. So for example, we have the ODPP, and I'm happy my colleague Leah is here. We also have the children's department. We have basically all the legal justice sectors. For the sake of time, I will not mention all of them, but they're all represented there in the committee. And one thing is that the committee has a plan, a strategic plan of the officers. Youth exploitation of violence against children is not only also is because of how those offenses are captured at the reporting desk and how that proceeds. So those are some of the things: the magistrates, the prosecutors, the police. We've been holding a number of thematic capacity buildings with selected officers so that they appreciate and understand what the law says. And remember also, we have a Children's Act, which I will say it is still new. We are also still understanding it because it was passed at a time when we were having elections in July 2022, and elections were in August. So many people did not know about that until when now we had the election unsettled. So now we are also building the capacity of stakeholders on that law, because that particular law also has provisions that protect children from online or what we call digital world exploitation and violence and abuse. In technology can be used as a platform towards the abuse. So grooming, enticing, making communications with the child to an extent that the child trusts you, and then you end up abusing the child. So that law has those provisions, and we are disseminating that. Beyond that, we also have what we call institutional audits, where we are looking at all the institutions that are mandated by law to provide services to children. How are they providing it? And as Jacqueline has mentioned, are they providing it in a trauma-informed perspective so that they do not traumatize the children further? So we do guidelines. We've done guidelines on that on a number of statutory children institutions. And I believe at some point, Jacqueline will be speaking to some of those institutions in terms of how do they handle children until the children move out of their hands. The other aspect also is basically ensuring that cases reported and prosecuted and are in court are fast-tracked. So we have what we call the service month. And the most recent one was done in November 2023. And the service month is to expedite cases involving children. So be it defilement, be it cases of maintenance, neglect of children. Like, just to give you a snapshot of the statistics we have, for example, for last year, that is the last service month, is that a total number of 377 cases, which involve what we call care and protection. So these are vulnerable children who are needing care and protection, were actually resolved through the court process by virtue of that particular approach called the service month, which is coordinated by the committee. Custody and maintenance cases, 371 were resolved. Defilement cases, which is very sad, that 135 cases, and that basically means 135 survivors or girls who actually were defiled, their cases were resolved. So there are so many other statistics, but I was just giving you a glimpse of what the committee has been able to support or promote to do. There are so many other things we can talk about, but I think the key thing is that this committee is bringing together a collaborative approach in addressing issues of children so that they're not addressed standalone, but in a collaborative way. And I think that is a key thing. And we have a strategy which is available online and can be shared with the participants. For the sake of time, allow me to move to what Equality Now also as both as a member of the committee, but also on its own right as an organization that works to promote the rights of women and girls, and more particularly the right to be protected from discrimination and violence, sexual violence, is that we are a member of an alliance. We call it the OD Alliance, that is the Universal Digital Rights Alliance, and that was put in place by virtue of recognition that there's a lot of violation that is happening online, and people, and especially the vulnerable people, women, girls, children, are not able to get remedies or are not able to get recourse when they are violated. And I think we've also seen this in our own media here in Kenya, that there's a lot of troll online when someone, for example, reports a case of violation. So we came together to see how can we push both national governments, but also the international framework to hold the platforms accountable, and also to ensure that the global internet, which is part of also the Kenyan internet, is both one safe, but also respects the dignity of people who are using it, and also there is freedom of people to express themselves. So these are principles that we are espousing, and we are pushing them through advocacy so that they can be adopted both at the global level, but also here in Kenya. And you remember in Africa also we have the Convention on Data Protection and Cyber Security. Unfortunately, Kenya is not yet ratified that, but a number of countries have ratified. I know there are a number of issues with that convention as well, but those are some of the conversations where we also lend our voices so that we inform those conventions, those treaties, so that when they come out, they recognize some of the violations that are meted upon the most vulnerable persons of the society. And more particularly, when we talk of GBV, women and girls are disproportionately affected, but also boys and men are affected. So basically ensuring that these policy documents are informed by the lived realities by the people that the documents or the laws are supposed to protect.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. JP. I am going to pose the next question to Ms. Leah. And our question is, what legal frameworks, other than just the acts, are available to protect children in the online space, and how does your agency enforce these laws?
The Office of the DPP draws its mandate from Article 157 of the Constitution. That is to say that we make the decision to charge perpetrators of crime. And to that end, there's also a requirement for us to have matters disposed of expeditiously. So as advocates of the victims, in this case, child victims, we should ensure that these cases are prosecuted as fast as they possibly can, so that at least the victim gets closure. And also, in addition to that, we have the issue of when the files come to us, you make a report of abuse to the police, and the investigators forward the file to the DPP to make the decision to charge. We have something called decision to charge guidelines. For us to charge a perpetrator, whether they are children in conflict with the law or adults, we have to confirm that the charge we are taking to court can be proved, which is where now the acts come in. Do we have sufficient evidence to sustain a conviction before taking an accused person, a potential convict to court? To that end, we have what we call the decision to charge guidelines. And now when the case comes to court, there are other guidelines that guide our decision. Someone has asked in the chat, what happens when it's two children who've defiled each other? Again, there are guidelines which are backed up by law under the Children's Act, which allow us to divert such a matter. We also have other guidelines which offer alternatives to prosecution if we feel, yes, an offense has been committed, but the offense cannot be proved, or there are better ways to deal with the case, which is where plea bargaining comes in. And we have plea bargaining guidelines which help us in that way. When the matter goes to court again, there is the issue of submitting digital evidence. The ODPP is about to roll out what we call pre-recorded evidence, whereby a child can give their evidence in a digital space and have the same produced in court without having them to repeat their story over and over again as it has been in the past. That reduces re-victimization and also saves a lot of court time, so that at least justice for the victims is guaranteed. We have other other sections of the law that guide us, like for instance, the right to privacy. Someone asked about the identity of the minor being exposed, and I answered the negative, because with the proceedings of any matter involving a child are done in camera, and people who are not family or family of either party are not allowed into court. Their names are not used, we use initials, and the practitioners in the criminal justice sector do everything within their power to protect the privacy of these children.
Thank you so much, Ms. Leah. What happens when you receive a case of abuse concerning a child? As you're answering that, Mr. Nyabuti, maybe you can also tell us, I could see the prosecutor, Ms. Leah, mentioned to us that they have received or rather prosecuted 10 cases. Maybe you can tell us, in the last 1 year, for example, or in the last few months, how many arrests have you made and what you did with the reports? Thank you.
On your question about the number of cases that we have taken to court, I don't immediately here now have the statistics, because remember that these cases are from the whole country, and I did not quite get in touch to collect the data together. But I can for sure here state that we have quite a number of cases that are before court we are prosecuting. The others that have been finalized, the others that we are investigating. But I don't quite have immediately before me the data of all the cases, because there are those that you cannot immediately, I couldn't immediately tell where their stage, where they have reached. But what it is that what happens when we receive a report on child abuse is that, first of all, we proceed to first of all confirm whether the information, establish whether the information is truthful through investigations. And then after that, after we confirm that, we proceed to gather evidence. We proceed to gather evidence over the same. And then after we gather evidence, we proceed to process the same. You remember, this is an area that is actually, it's an emerging matter where, you know, we have new developments here and there. So we proceed to analyze the same. You realize, for example, that at the DCI, we have a laboratory now, a forensic digital laboratory, where evidence collected is analyzed, so that now it becomes evidence that can be admissible in court. Then, of course, at that stage, we hand over to the ODPP to proceed there. But as Madam Murunga said, that we ensure we do a good job during investigation, so that when these matters are before court, the prosecution finds it easy to prosecute, because we have to clearly get a clear case, so that this case, you know, we end up getting convictions in court. Because otherwise, if they are not properly investigated, of course, you expect that we will not win a conviction in court. We have also we have also developed child-friendly reporting mechanisms. We have made it easy and convenient for these cases to be reported. That's why you realize we have, in fact, established separate places for reporting, what I want to call a child desk, where these matters can be received and can be recorded by officers who have been trained. Just for your information, I wanted to inform you that the police, with the help of partners, we have been able, and we are still in the process of training police officers, this being an emerging matter. on child online abuse. And as we speak now, we have already trained police officers who are involved in the investigation of these cases in about 12 counties. And what we are getting from the field is that the cases now, investigations are being properly done. And the officers are aware, they are sensitized, they are trained. They now know how to receive these reports and how to investigate them. And also, we have also, the police has established, of course, a specialized unit for child protection that is based at the along Mombasa Road next to the National Criminal Investigations Academy, where we have specialized officers who are specially trained to handle these cases. And also we have through the DCI, a mechanism of reporting where we have a line called Fichokwa DCI. And through it, we are getting many cases reported. And we act on them. We are also involved in sensitization programs to schools. We are going down to schools and educating children about the online abuse.
Thank you so much. I'm actually learning quite a lot about what the police is doing. And you know, most times I know we have had cases of some form of mistrust in the police, in the general public, and just hearing from the citizens. But then learning what you do and learning what you're doing with the cases and what you're doing and the process that it takes for you to take from the arrest, from the gathering of evidence, and up to taking the case to the prosecution. And maybe because I just want to also mention that this is an ongoing conversation, and this will be shared in due time. And I'm sure that when you gather the statistics, you'll be able to share with us so that we can also have it shared with the public, with the listeners, just so they can know what exactly is happening. How many cases of online abuse on children have happened, and out of these cases, maybe I can, thank you so much, Mr. Nyabuti. And I'll take the question back to Ms. Leah. You talked about 10 cases of online abuse. I was here at the Milimani Locals, which is in Nairobi. Can you maybe tell us what are the successes of these cases? The cases have been submitted to your desk, and you are the prosecutor helping this child get, or rather access justice. What are the successes of these cases?
I'm not allowed in law to give details of cases which are pending in court, but I would advise the listeners to just log into the Kenya Law website and just search child pornography, any offense relating to online abuse that you can think about, and you'll see the good job that we are all doing. So yes, given the improvements in this emerging issue, we've had a lot of growth. Again, the law is there to back us. We've had the new act acknowledge that these offenses are actually taking place, and even described what amounts to child pornography, what amounts to child prostitution. There is even an offense for failing to report online abuse. So the law is on our side. We are doing everything we can in our power to get all our colleagues trained on this area. And I believe the future is bright for our children. Although I must add, Joe, that there's a lot of sensitization which needs to be done as it relates to digital literacy. Parents in the forum need to create a positive relationship with their children if they can, because it is only after they know that they have a person to trust, that these people can speak out of any imminent bullying or grooming or any form of abuse of the online space. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Leah. As much as we would really have loved to hear from you the kind of cases and the successes, but then we really appreciate, because we realize that cases involving children are really sensitive. And so maybe you can help us by, you mentioned Kenya Law website, maybe you can type it in the chat box for the participants. They could check it out later. And we will continue learning what are the successes, and are our children actually getting justice. So still on the same question, I would love to hear from Ms. Jackie Ikua, the Directorate of Children's Services. How many cases do you receive in a day? There's someone whose microphone is on. Please mute. Thank you. Thank you. So to Ms. Jackie Ikua, on the question of the reports that you receive, how many cases do you receive at the Child Online Protection Department in the DCS in a day? Give us in a day, and maybe you can also tell us what does this figure mean over a longer period of time? Ms. Jackie?
Thank you, Atulo. As the Directorate of Children's Services, every case that we receive, we have a system, the Child Protection Information Management System, and members of the public can be able to interact with the data with regards to cases that are received at both the sub-county level, because we have different platforms in which the Directorate can be reached via. We have the 116 line. Children or adults can call the platform, it's toll free, so that they make any reports and get the guidance they need with regards to the appropriate linkages and referrals that they can make with regards to cases that they report. Also, we have cases that are reported one-on-one, that is in our offices. We have offices in sub-county, in every sub-county, in most of the sub-counties. And we also have county children offices, which are able to revert the cases back to the sub-county. So if you go to data.childprotection.go.ke, you'll be able to interact with the cases. Actually, they have been clustered into different, it's more than actually 20 case categories. So you'll be able to interact with the cases that are with regards to online abuse that have been reported. There's also a breakdown of other cases that are abuse cases, and the other case categorization that everybody can interact with to just get a breeze or get knowledge on the cases that we interact with. When I reflect on the system, we have a lot of cases that are particularly on neglect. So there are a lot of interventions that are required to actually be able to deal with that. With regards to online abuse, you can be able to interact with the cases that we have received in, you are able to interact with as long as as far as 2019, 2020, 2021. I would not want to say on a daily basis I receive 5 cases or 6 cases with regards to online abuse. I'll leave it because it will not be a reflection of the whole country. So I'll leave it to everyone to interact with the cases that we receive. But one thing for sure is there are cases of online abuse that I have interacted with from as recent as being in the office, and it is true that on every incident of particularly cases of online abuse, you'll find a lot of cases are displaying themselves as sexual offenses, or particularly just concerned by parents, only for you to dig deeper and be able to see that there is a form of abuse going on. So I would not want to say I received 10, I received 15. I want to leave it for everyone to interact with it so that we are able to I see someone who is asking for me to share their website. Okay, I'll link it in the chat box so that everybody can interact with that data. Maybe something that I would want to add, it's important to recognize the gains have been made with regards to enhancing collaboration, enhancing sensitization, particularly on online abuse, and particularly on increased coordination, particularly in handling cases of abuse. So how do we ensure that we are adequately collaborated? How do we ensure that we are coordinated so that when the ODPP receives a case, they're able to say this is a case that requires the intervention of a child protection officer? Why are they not here? If the police receive a case, then same as us, if we receive a case that requires the intervention, that children get the support that they actually need. Back to you, Atulo.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jackie. And someone has mentioned that we need the data, the URL to the website posted on the chat. Yeah, please share that with us. And also in relation to the report that the directorate did in line with the child abuse. So if you could kindly share the documents where we can get them, I will really appreciate that.
Okay, so for the next question, we're going to open it to the members of the panel. Anyone who feels that like they can be able to tackle it, feel free to answer. So how has technology contributed or facilitated to violence and abuse against children? And what have what unique experiences have you had in handling these children cases?
The question was addressed to the panel. Any one of you can go first. We can start with Mr. JP Murunga. If I will repeat the question. How has technology contributed or facilitated violence and abuse against children? And what are some of the unique experiences that you have in handling these children cases?
Thank you. So some of the ways in which technology has facilitated, well, technology is good, is a tool just like any other, but there are ways in which also, if it is not used in the right way, then it leads to some of these abuses that we are talking about. That is someone on the other end who is quote unquote, someone with a criminal mind targeting an innocent person and therefore leading to the violation. Is that technology has brought connection so that somebody can be in the US and they're actually committing a crime against a child in Kenya. You've heard of the live streaming of pornography that is targeting children. You've heard of trafficking of children through those media. So those are some of the negative aspects that technology has facilitated, that close connection, so that the small environment that we had as a family is now widened, so that you can be with a child in your house, but this child is communicating with somebody who is on the other end of the world. And before you know it, and in some very extreme cases, they even organize even meetups, and the person ends up exploiting the child. One case, I wouldn't mention which court station because it is still ongoing, is a case in which the accused person basically communicated with the survivor, that is the underage girl. And they communicated for a while until at some point, this person ended up booking a room in a lodging with this girl, violating the girl for a number of days. And then now, when the girl came back after the parents were looking for the girl for for a number of days, over 4 days, when they realized that this girl was actually somewhere with someone, and this is an underage girl. And of course, because of our law, there's the issue of defilement. But before even the defilement happened, you can see there was really a chain of events that led to that. So those are just some of the ways in which technology, and that's basically just mobile technology, could be they were communicating on WhatsApp, on messages, text, until this happened. So those are some of the ways in which technology has facilitated violations. And to your next question, in terms of what can be done, I mean, there are other aspects also which technology has helped to address the issues. For example, we have virtual courts. If there was no technology, we would not be able to address cases as quickly as we've done. And we've seen this during the COVID-19, that courts were moving very swift. And I think in the future, what we are looking at is possibility of survivors and people testifying on camera, and also this being recorded and being kept securely, so that there is not that direct confrontation in the courtroom or even in the corridors of the court between either the perpetrator or the perpetrator's families and the families of the survivor, and those kind of things. So these are some of the ways in which we are looking into the future as the judiciary continues to basically improve its infrastructure in terms of this virtual hearing, but also even case management. The technology has really helped to retrieve. If you want to retrieve details, my colleague and my former classmate Leah has just mentioned that you Google, you go to the e-filing in the judiciary, and you'll get the cases the ODPP is working on. You go to Kenya law, you get the cases that have been adjudicated. So if you are an expert working on those or doing a research, it has made it easy. I think because of time, but I don't know whether I've answered all the aspects of your question. I think there's a bit you had asked which I didn't get quite well towards the end. If you don't mind, if you can repeat, but if not, my other colleagues can also still answer it.
Yeah, you did answer. Thank you so much, Mr. JP. The question was on the unique experiences, and you brought out the issue of the ongoing case where this child had been chatting with someone and the parent was not aware, and it was realized later that the abuser is actually someone that this child had been in communication with from some time back. So yeah, maybe Miss Jacqueline Ikua could tell us, how has technology contributed to violence and abuse against children, and what are some of the unique experiences? I know we've been talking about this from the beginning of the webinar, but you can just mention some of the unique experiences you've had in this, in handling these children cases, and how technology has contributed to this.
Yeah, so one of the things that we will not label technology as generally bad, as he has said, but it's important to be aware of the potential risk that it poses. We have incidences of children. You know, technology has brought even the perpetrators home. The moment as a parent you switch off your lights and you're going to bed, you've left your child with a phone, so you actually let in a perpetrator in your own home. So you don't know what interactions this child is having. You don't know what special protections. You've not guided them on how they are able to actually reach out to you in case they are going through something. So there's been more of an increased like closeness of actually access of perpetrators to children. Technology has also facilitated incidences like cyberbullying. There are cases where minors are actually trolled, actually a lot of negative comments and a lot of negative things said about them. And not an instance do we think, what is the impact, what is the psychological impact of whatever this child is going through online. We always think that social media has made us have an illusion that because somebody is on our faces on a daily basis, maybe we follow them or like their content, that we actually know this person and we have a right to comment whatsoever we please with regards to what they are doing. So you find a lot of mental health, a lot of psychological issues, particularly arising from instances of cyberbullying. Another thing that technology has brought forth is the ease of online grooming through online games, through social media platforms. it's been easier to actually get access because perpetrators are able to know based on the patterns, based on the contents that accounts are liking, to be able to pick up vulnerabilities of children and be able to actually get as much information as from them, and actually leading, starting all the way from grooming and ending up all the way to being cases of defilement. I have instances where children have had a conversation with particularly somebody they thought was their age, and it's ended up them meeting and maybe having even it being presented as a case of defilement. So it is happening to our children. But I would also like to reiterate, there are so many gains that have come as a result of technology. The ease of actually communication. We can have a sensitization within an hour. We'll have a sensitization forum of online abuse and basically child abuse and how to deal with it. The e-filing system, if you're able to harness the technology, we'll be able to reduce even the necessary backlog that is derailing our child protection cases. Because one of the things I have realized that is taking a toll on these victims and their families is the constant derailment of the cases. So how are we able to harness the power of technology so that when a child gives a testimony, when a child gives information with regards to something happening to them, that this information can go through the justice system with them not having to constantly recount what happened to them. Maybe Leah will mention this, but I've had discussions of DPP thinking about having video recording. So how can we harness the power of technology to stop the constant re-victimization of victims, because they constantly have to retell. Imagine having to tell a children officer, you go to a police officer and tell them, you go to the court and tell them, and then you have to tell this other person. So how do we ensure that there is that transition of the information that that child has provided at the first instance from the service provider that received it up to the latter? The issue of the on digitization of the sexual offenders register. How are we able to harness that? Because if you research and read widely on countries that have been able to activate such registers, how is it? I know it has a lot of legal debates around it, but how do we ensure that when convicted sexual offenders get into our neighborhoods? I know that DCA is very keen on when they enter the country, but particularly there are those who are within the country. How do we ensure that we have protection and safeguards that these convicted sexual offenders, regardless of them going through rehabilitation, there are special safeguards with regards to them working with children? You find a lot of these sexual offenders are coming in and they are volunteering, even CCI. It's like you've given them an easy access to children. So how do we ensure that we harness the power of technology to be able to ensure that we appropriately respond to incidences of abuse? We reduce the lengthy and tiresome process that comes with the actual cases of child protection. And how do we ensure that we're able to, because with technology comes a lot of things that increase sensitization, digital literacy that will have to go in. So regardless of having even virtual courts, what's even the perspective of people? Are we actually enlightening them that you don't have to come to court to actually be heard? When you log into your phone and you make these prayers or these submissions, they actually had, because we are having to shift a lot of perspective on you have to be physically present and have one-on-one engagement for actually somebody to hear you. So with technology comes the adverse effects, particularly on the risks that is poses to children, but also we can harness the power of technology to increase our collaboration and coordination. And further, how do we ensure that there is speedy conclusion of these child protection cases?
Collaboration. This is really coming out. And I'll still pose this question to Ms. Jackie, and maybe you can answer it after Mr. Tom Nyabuti goes. Still on the same question, how, as an investigative department, directorate, and even as an individual, how has technology contributed to violence against children? You have worked with the DCI, for the last 35 years, and so you have transited from when we didn't have as much technology, or rather the internet, to a time where the internet is the order of the day. So how would you say technology has contributed to violence against children? And yeah, what are some of the unique experiences you've had in answering, in handling these cases for children? Maybe you can briefly tell us that. Thank you.
Okay, Otulo, I hope you are getting me.
Yes, you're very clear.
Thank you. Yeah, just like the two previous speakers have said, you know, technology, or let's call internet, has exposed children to now predators who are serving the internet. And then when they start communicating with children, these predators, they seize them, and they proceed thereafter to abuse them in many ways, including, as I earlier said, sexual exploitation, and at times even beyond. I want to say they use the children for material gain. You know, they end up intimidating and coercing and demanding money from even relatives, with threats that if they don't give them the money, they will expose them, they will put them all over the internet, or they end up, you know, getting exposing them to some explicit sexual material and so forth. We also have situations where children are exposed to online games, and some of the games that they are exposed to, it's like they're driving them to the corner where children are driven through the games into abusing themselves, or sometimes also abusing others from the games that they're finding online. We have, in fact, we have had situations where through games or on online, a child is driven through the game to a point where some have ended up committing suicide, or harming themselves, or harming other children, or in fact, even killing them. And therefore, you can see, in as much as the internet has brought in very many good things, including learning or education, and entertainment, and connecting with friends, you know. There's also this side where the internet, or through, on online, children are exposed to people who are intent to harm them, or even expose them to danger, or end up even defrauding them, or defrauding their relatives through the children. So that's what I can say, in as much as how this has led to violence against children.
Maybe Atulo, I could add something.
Yes,
Maybe I could add. Hi, Rose. Maybe I could add something. one.
Yes, Miss Leah.
No, it's
Actually,
Jackie. Jackie.
It's Jackie who was speaking.
Jackie,
Maybe I could
sorry.
yes, I could add something with regards to how the technology has actually perpetuated violence. When you look at the constant trend of sharing and resharing, and it's something that we've been speaking so much against, that when you have that whole essence of there is this video of a child being abused and then you share it to somebody else. So imagine the constant re-victimization that this child has to go through. One person knew of what happened to them. Now this other person knows of what happened to them. So also with regards to also the power of speedy takedown procedures. How are you able to ensure that, number one, as members of the public, we're not quick to share and re-victimize children unless you are doing it to actually a service provider, which I don't want even to say unless you're doing it. Let's desist from the habit of constantly sharing material that is depicting children going through one or another form of violence. That is actually constant victimization of those children.
Okay, thank you, Miss Jackie, for the addition. And I'll still add the audience. If you still have any questions, we'll give you a time for Q&A. And also, in the meantime, you can type your questions in the Q&A chat box. And there's a saying in Swahili that dawa ya moto ni moto. Yes, and so just thinking of that and thinking of the power of the internet and seeing how much the internet, we have say, is an avenue for predators, as Mr. Nyabuti has mentioned. And one thing we want to acknowledge is something like the groundbreaking initiative, the Electronic Register for Sexual Offenders, that was launched by the Chief Justice last year at the Kibera Law Courts in June last year. And it plays a very pivotal role in safeguarding children's rights and promoting their access to justice. And also, it centralizes information. I just want to ask you, like I mentioned, dawa ya moto ni moto. What role are the digital tools playing? You've mentioned a few websites, but what role are the digital tools playing in strengthening cases and ensuring accountability and access to justice for children, especially in the online space? And also, in what ways can we strengthen these digital platforms to help us in the access to justice for children? We can have Ms. Leah go first and then Mr. Murunga.
Rose and Joe, you didn't ask me about my unique case. And so before I answer you, I'll start by saying that every case which comes to our office is unique, because in it is a child victim whose explicit photos are out there being distributed by the perpetrator. And we have a duty to protect them. There are as many cases as the ones my classmate Murunga mentioned. And there is also the ones, those are on the larger sphere, but we also have ones at our own homes in our local sphere where we have someone with whom our child has built a relationship of trust with, like a house girl, taking photos of her and sharing it with bad people, if I can call them that. So every case is unique, and with the internet growth, there is need to foster a lot of positive education towards the use of the internet. And now to answer you as relates to dawa ya moto ni moto, I would say that in the section 129 of the CPC, the Criminal Procedure Code, where when we present evidence in court and we can't prove the offense with which the perpetrator is charged, the judicial officer has power under that section to convict the perpetrator under the offense that has been proved. That is to say that, yes, we have presented a case of child pornography, but we could prove that. If we have proved the offense of indecent act with a child under the Sexual Offences Act, the court will still go ahead and convict that perpetrator. So there is no escape route. And with the digital migration, admissibility of digital evidence, interagency collaboration with the help of advanced machines to deal with this work, I believe we're in the right direction, Joe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Leah. Mr. Nyabuti, you can tell us what role are the digital tools playing, especially dealing with investigations as an individual working with the police? What roles are the digital tools playing in strengthening cases and ensuring that there's accountability and access to justice for children?
Hello, hello, Murunga. I don't know whether you are addressing me.
Yes, Mr. Nyabuti, on the question of the role that digital tools are playing and helping you in your work to ensure that there is access to justice for children and strengthening of the cases.
Okay. Well, you know well, Otulo, that much of this evidence that we need in these cases is actually available, is found, or you can find it. You'll always find it on online. And to go to the internet and extract the evidence, it requires first of all properly trained personnel. And then I think it also requires special, softwares to be able to gather together this evidence that is available on the internet where a child has been abused. So I don't know whether I should tell you that. So we have the softwares that we use to collect evidence from the net, wherever an offense has been committed against a child. And then we also, as I've already indicated, the same evidence, we take it to our forensic laboratory where it is then analyzed. And then, of course, results recorded, and then they are ready for production in court as evidence. At the same time, through the tools, that's the softwares, we also are able to carry out overt operations online, that is surveillance, to proactively to check on those who are intend to violate children's rights or violate children online. And in so doing, we are able to disrupt their intentions online. So, and then of course, we carry out what I want to call proactive investigations. We don't necessarily wait for to have these cases reported to us, but we go ahead and carry out investigations proactively to get these predators online and proceed to take legal action against them. To you, Tulo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Nyabuti. You've actually answered a question that I was coming to ask up next on the new trends that are happening in the investigative space, and you just elaborated how much you use the internet and how effective it is to ensure that the children who are being abused, especially in the online space, are having access to justice. I will pose the same question to Ms. Leah. Maybe you can just give us an answer in a minute or so, in the interest of time. What are some of the new trends, especially in prosecution, and also in ensuring that you're utilizing the digital tools as a prosecution officer to ensure that children are able to access justice?
I would say the new trend I have seen is the quote unquote innocent way that some of these perpetrators begin the commission of the offense. Someone would come to a child's Facebook page and just comment on how beautiful they are. At the outset, that looks like a positive compliment. But behind the screen is a person with a very guilty mind. So the peculiarity of how these cases present themselves for me is the newest trend, because it takes a well-trained professional or first responder to pick out these red flags and actually notice the potential way that the crime will manifest itself in the long run. And what we are doing about that is, again, as Mr. Nyabuti has said, training, and more training, sensitization of anyone who has a child in their lives to do everything they can in terms of raising their esteem or just making them aware of these dangers of the internet, as much as we have other positive things about it.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Leah. And as we are coming to the end of we have a few minutes left to finish our webinar. Thank you for all who have stayed with us. Thank you for each and everyone who has interacted with us in the Q&A chat box, and also in the chat box. You can still find the websites that have been shared by our panelists on the different issues that they were addressing, from the DCS, from the prosecution desk or DPP, also other cases. I just want to ask to Mr. Murunga, maybe you can take a minute in the interest of time to tell us what are the new trends in advocacy. What are you doing as an organization and Equality Now to ensure that you're advocating for the safety of children in the online space, and you yourself as a programs officer for ending sexual violence? What are some of the new trends that you're having in advocacy?
Thank you. Once
Also,
again,
sorry, as you're answering that, maybe you can tell us how effective have these methods that you've used, how effective are they?
Great, thank you. So I know you've asked me in my capacity within Equality Now, but also since I'm representing the committee, some of the novel things that the committee is also doing is we've really reinforced the coordination aspect to an extent that now we'll be getting data from each of the state agencies, of course, the statutory data holders with respect to child protection, but also the non-statutory ones. And here I'm speaking about the CSOs, so that data helps in terms of policy formulation and even guiding what actions need to be taken. So that is really going to help the committee that's what we are doing in terms of coordination going forward. And this one also cement the approach of the Committee on Collaboration, where all stakeholders are coming together to address the issue. And remember, when I talk about collaboration here, we are also including the public as well, because it's not just the state agencies and the NGOs, but also the public as well, because the public plays a crucial role in reporting. Remember the recent case in Kayole of, I think there were about 16 children who were rescued. So you can imagine this person was bringing these children probably 2 or 3, because I doubt whether they brought the children 16 at once. So if somebody, a goodwill person of the public who probably was aware, could have reported this early, probably it would have affected fewer children. So that aspect of collaboration being improved by data, and of course IT and information technology, helping us to get data in real time and in a well-organized manner that can be used for decision. And now back to your question, as an officer at Equality Now, and what we are doing, and basically representing CSO space as well, is that traditionally this social protection role, and even within the Constitution, Article 53, this is the mandate of the government. But unfortunately, over the years, the government has not been budgeting for this adequately, and you've seen a lot of support from international multilateral organizations or bodies towards this, and through NGOs like ourselves. But our key role still remains that we are holding the government accountable. Of course, in certain cases, we have to step in and even do the service delivery and even offer protection. We have partners who actually also do rescue in certain cases. And we hope that this will be taken up fully by government at some point, both county and national government, so that we go back to our primary role of holding the government accountable to ensure that the vulnerable people in the society, especially the children, are protected, and their needs are met, and they're able to live their full life to their potential, because some of these harms, as have been mentioned by my colleagues, are really lifelong issues of trauma, lifelong issues of difficulty. So what is working for now is that there's emergence of a psychosocial approach, in the sense that beyond the legal process where the perpetrator is taken through court, the child is rescued, but there's also that aspect that this child, we open, or within the judiciary, we have the protection and care file, which is open for this child, so that periodically the child or someone who is standing in for the child will come before the magistrate or before the judicial officer who is handling the matter, just to see the well-being of the child, so that as the other matters go on, the well-being of this child, for example, if it is education, if it is shelter, and in some cases, if the child, for example, was violated by a close relative, so then there's need for a safer shelter. So there are those aspects. And for me, that is a game changer, in the sense that it does not only look at how many cases or how many prosecutions or how many convictions have been obtained, but how many children have been reintegrated back peacefully into an environment where they feel that they are children and they will be able to explore their potential. It is an emerging trend, in the sense that not all court stations have embraced, but it is something that as a committee as well, we are pushing it, so that any child that comes into contact with the judicial process, then this protection and care file is opened, which will be able to help the monitoring of the well-being of this child until this child reaches the age of 18. And in certain cases also, there will be exceptions where that kind of monitoring can be extended if the needs of this child are still not met, and therefore the judicial officer still deems it fit that this child needs close monitoring. And remember, when the judicial officer has that file, it means it brings together all the other stakeholders, the children's officer, the probation, in certain cases, psychosocial support providers like NGOs. So it gives this child a holistic kind of support. Yeah, thank you, Tulo. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. JP. And that is really interesting, just showing how, as part of the committee and also as part of Equality Now, some of the trends that you're utilizing to ensure that children are able to access justice, children are able to be protected in the online space. And just before our closing remarks, and there's a question that has been raised and answered by Liz. And she asked, as practitioners, do you get or receive psychosocial support after handling these cases, given that the case can distress you as a practitioner? And just from the conversation, you can actually see that some of these cases are really intense even for us to comprehend, and we are the ones just listening to them. But you, as a practitioner, handling this case directly, we can see that it's really stressful. And thank you to Ms. Leah Mati, who answered that they do. And there is even a psychologist on call at the office headquarters. But also their colleagues are encouraged to seek psychosocial support and a work-life integration in their individual capacities. So keep the questions coming. If you feel your question has not been answered, we are our technical team is still checking on them, and keep typing them in the chat box. And any clarification that you need, please just type it in the chat box.
Now, as we wind down and perhaps as closing remarks from members of the panel, we are going to ask, in your specific experiences, what measures should parents and communities take, or what tools should they adapt in trying to safeguard the children online?
Well, Madam, are you getting me?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thanks. Thanks. I think, as technology advances, of course, it comes up with its own barriers and many challenges. But I think parents should be advised, or they advise that, one, they should not leave their children exposed to the internet alone. Children require supervision, so that then they do not veer off into or towards some sites which may where these predators can easily take advantage of the children. But I know that is going to be difficult because still children can get, gadgets that are connected anywhere, far from the parents. For example, just sometime last 2 weeks ago, I attended an academic clinic in a secondary school where my daughter learns, and from the teachers we could gather, that they had previously they were giving these children their homework online, or their studies. We could allow them study online, which is a very positive thing, a very good thing. But remember, the parents are not going to be around the children all the time, and immediately, probably in most cases, probably after the parents leave, then these children now get off their study area, and they veer off. They go into these other sites where then they they are easily available to predators who are surfing the internet. And then, and so one thing follows another until maybe they are violated. I also am aware that we also have apps or applications that can protect children against, accessing the sites we want to call dangerous. So maybe parents can be advised that they purchase or they access these applications, and then protect the children against accessing these sites that could be dangerous to them. For now, that is what we can do. And at the same time, also we as a society, of course, where parents are, with the sensitization and learning, then the parents will be able to know how to supervise or take care of their children when they are surfing the internet. I think that can help.
Maybe I can add something.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I think that it's important that children know that with the internet comes certain risks. So how do we equip them with the necessary tools to navigate them online space safely? That can include as simple as guiding them through what is expected of them, making sure that we even have a time limit as to how much time they can spend there. Make sure that you tell them about the perils that you can find people who end up being perpetrators. So how do you activate your safety settings? A lot of the platforms have been able to have safety features. Maybe as parents and even as children can actually optimize on. How do you ensure that you actually put your rights instance that you'll be able to access, or also ensuring that you're able to be equipped with the information that the people that you meet online, regardless of how much time you spend getting to know them online, that they still remain strangers. So make sure that you keep yourself safe. Do not meet any people that you've met online. Ensure that you don't accept any links, any pop-ups that will lead you to probably unsafe sites. Ensure that you are also able to vet, ensure that every information that you get online, you're able to prove, you're able to vet it, ensure that you are able to actually have be actually safe online. And then as parents, we can also encourage them to optimize on the family control tools, actually have open conversations with their children. I always say, the moment you trust your child with that gadget, give them age appropriate information. Every age cohort has specific technological challenges. As young as those who are just watching Cocomelon, it's important to actually look at what content are they interacting with? Is it violent content? How is the impact of the content they are interacting with in terms of your family values? When you entrust a child with a phone, how do you ensure that you're able to guide them through navigating that phone, ensuring that they are able to come to you in case they have any fault? As parents, I know technology is a constant field that we feel we are playing catch up before you actually get to understand how an app works. There's another app that is coming up. So it sometimes feels like catch up, but it's necessary catch up to ensure that when a child comes to you, you're able to give them the necessary information that they need. There are things that the children know that we actually do not know as parents. So how do you ensure to have an open conversation that they can be able to tell you some, you also learn from them. There are things that they are well equipped and they know that they can actually teach or a thing or two about. Research widely as to regards of how to navigate that space, so that when a child comes to you, you're able to give them the information that they need. Also be keen and alert. What are some of the behavioral changes that your child will go through, and will be aware that this is a child experiencing a problem? Because one of the saddest things we encounter in a child protection field is a child who's gone through abuse for a long period of time, and you're wondering, didn't anybody realize that this child was actually dealing with something? So how do you ensure that as parents, you're able to know any change of behavior, probe, get to know your child, make sure you have connections and conversations, make sure that they feel that they are heard and listened to, that they do not, they're not just they're not just open, they're not just recipients of your information, but they actually have a voice. How do you work with even teachers? The more the education sphere is getting virtual and virtual, so how do you ensure that even teachers are able to put the necessary safeguards within the schools? They're able to even have these conversations, even as part of the curriculum, online safety. So the more that we digitize even our school system, so how do we ensure that the more we move towards tech, that we also move towards more elaborate and more explicit forms of online protection? As social service providers, how do we ensure that we're able to protect children? How do we ensure that we are able to have trauma-informed kind of intervention? So basically, that's a thing or two we can do to ensure that we protect children.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jacqueline. Mr. Murunga, 1 minute.
Thank you. Yes, for me, my closing remark is that, there is this Swahili saying that says that asiyefunzwa na wazazi hufunzwa na ulimwengu. Unfortunately for us now, the ulimwengu is right inside the child's bedroom in the form of internet. So for me is what we can tell the parents and tell myself as well as a parent is that let us be there so that when the ulimwengu is teaching our children, we are able to filter that through our experience, through the law, through the values that our colleague has mentioned, so that the child is able to get what is good for that child at the particular age where they are in, so that we are not being called that your child is trending on Twitter, your child is trending on TikTok for things that will later on affect them. And this reminds me of a very sad case. I'm sure most of us saw it a few weeks ago. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. There was a girl from Uganda who was trending in Twitter. And she was very young, 17 years. And I was just asking myself, when this girl becomes adult and starts to understand some of these things, and this has gone the whole of Africa. Remember, you're in Uganda and I'm in Kenya. I'm seeing this. Someone in West Africa is seeing it, is seeing the whole world. So you can imagine what the parents are going through, and also even the child themselves. So for me, is that let us not be absent parents. Let us be there and know what our children are doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Murunga. Ms. Leah, parting shot and advice to the parents.
I echo the sentiments of my colleague. Educate, educate, educate. Education is power. And once our children are empowered, what we will have at the ODPP is the most extreme of cases. And at the ODPP, we are soon going to have the child-friendly interview rooms launched, and we would have those culprits brought to book. Because as Mr. Murunga has said, the effects of online abuse is not seen. It's not like a cut on the arm where you have a scar to show. It is inwards. And but that doesn't mean that the trauma on the victim is any lesser. The 17-year-old will have to live with that pain for the rest of her life. And it will be important for parents and guardians, and even loved ones, for children without either that, to just keep their children informed on any danger and the various forms they may manifest themselves on the internet. Thank you for having us, Rose and Joe. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ms. Leah. And I just want to urge everyone, as we conclude this discussion, it doesn't end here. So let's just reflect on the valuable insights that have been shared by our panelists, by the experts, and those who have been able to just show us the unique challenges that children are going through in the digital space. They've also put on light the kind of legal frameworks that are available for our children, and also surrounding their rights, and also the importance for holistic support systems that we all need to have